a stupid grin. Last time I'm crying, but I kept trying, cause he don't know the moves that I'm supplying. I'll take my glasses, I'm gonna bounce back up and take some masses. I'm about to blow you. You don't control me. Say that I'm freaky. You're a freak, don't belong cause you're alone and weak. But I'm just as cool as I am weak. Mr. Power, I am on fleek. And this time I won't be crying, no I'm not buying. You know the slide is the moves that I'm supplying. I'll take my glasses, I'm gonna bounce back, grab and kick some asses. I'm about to call your bluff. You think you own me, you don't control me. You think you heard me, say that I'm freaky. You're just afraid, I'm here to stay. Not gonna be that. You think you own me, you don't control me. You think you heard me, say that I'm freaky. You're just afraid, I'm here to stay. You think you
You've been enjoying.
Oh. Yeah, there's an internal Pandora server issue. I don't know why it's let me play a song over here, but it didn't want to on the inside.
let's push it hard tonight. I wanna see the morning light. I wanna feel real love. I just can't get enough. Alright. I'm in over my head. Hey, but we see what we're dead. Oh, I'm in over my head. Hey, but we see what we're dead.
That's funny. Okay. Coffee house crime just popped up. I was just thinking maybe we should switch to one, and then that popped up. A new one. I haven't seen this. 10 hours ago. Cops discover taxi driver murdered 192 people in horrifying confession. Let's go. Need to make a snack.
This is Kim Dae-han, and although he was once just an honest taxi driver, he soon became one of the country's most hated men when detectives realized that he was responsible for 192 deaths and a further 151 injuries. However, the crazy thing about this story is that not only was this not actually his intention, but he wasn't even the only one responsible. In fact, as you...
This one just came to mind. I'm interested to see if anything pops up. No way. We'll see.
If you don't want did a full 180 crazy thinking about the way I was. Did the heartbreak change me? Maybe, but look at where I ended up. I'm all good already, so moved on. It's scary. I'm not where you left me at all. So if you don't wanna see me dancing with somebody, if you don't believe that anything can stop me, don't show up, don't come out, don't stop caring about me now. Walk away, you know how. Don't stop caring about me now. Aren't you the guy who tried to hurt me with the word goodbye? I know it took some time to survive you. I'm better on the other side. I'm all good already, so moved on. It's scary. I'm not where you left me at all.
Oh, Perry! Thank you very much. Cute. Thank you, cutie.
Don't show up, don't come out, don't stop
Caring about me now.
walk away, you know how.
All right. That was fun. Are you asking for a reading right now? I wasn't going to read right now. I was going to watch a true crime, but I do have a little reading to do actually. I sure can. Hold on. But I need to make a snack first. And make sure my blood sugar is stable. I got you.
was once just an honest taxi driver. He soon became one of the country's most hated men when detectives realized that he was responsible for 192 deaths and a further 151 injuries. However, the crazy thing about this story is that not only was this not actually his intention, but he wasn't even the only one responsible. In fact, as you will soon find out, you could argue that unfortunate coincidence played just as much a responsibility, and the result would leave the country in mourning and total disbelief. Welcome back to Coffee House Crime, folks. My name is Adrian, and today we're looking at one of the most unfortunate stories ever. So, this case takes us right the way back to the year 2003. And you know that I usually prefer to cover more recent stories, but I genuinely can't believe this one. and it's barely been covered. But before we continue, please remember to like this video, and while you're down in the comments, please tell me what you're doing while you're watching this, because I'm genuinely curious. And thanks to all of you who answered my question last week too. We truly are an international channel. Anyway, with that said, please grab yourself a coffee and let's caffeinate while we investigate. This is the case of the Daegu subway disaster. Annyeonghaseyo folks, and hello South Korea. It's been a minute, hasn't it? Today we're focusing on a country that we've not been to for a while. South Korea is famous for its delicious food, huge pop culture, advanced technology, and, of course, probably what it's most notorious for recently, K-pop. South Korea is known as a futuristic country of sorts. However, things were not always like this. In fact, if you scroll back only a couple of decades, you'd realize that life was actually quite different. You see, before many of the emergency safety systems that we now take for granted had become standard, and at a time when South Korea's health and mental health services still had a lot of room for improvement, those two things in this story would sadly combine in the worst way possible. You would have never imagined that a personal crisis could end in tens of thousands of lives being affected, or so many deaths for that matter. And as you'll see in this video, looking after your health and all kinds of it is extremely important. Problems can manifest in many ways, and although some sadly are unavoidable, the truth is that most of our health problems are preventable to a certain degree, if only we tackled the issues sooner. You know, I always think about the pain that I got on my left wrist and how I genuinely put up with it for several months before finally seeing a doctor. But welcome to procrastination.
I don't know if I trust this.
Experienced before. It was shortly before 10 o'clock in the morning of February the 18th, 2003, that emergency lines all across the city of Daegu started to light up. The morning had started like any other typical workday. People filled the streets, shops were preparing to open, and thousands of commuters were just going about their day, making their way through the city. However, beneath their feet, something horrifying was slowly beginning to take place. Calls were coming in from dozens of terrified citizens, all who claimed that they were trapped underground inside the city's subway network. Meanwhile, families across South Korea were receiving text messages and phone calls from desperate relatives. Now, at first, those above ground had no idea what was actually going on underneath them. However, to sum it up in one...
Shh, are those the Frosty Mountains? Climb the Frosty Mountains.
Message for you. A university student named Jang Jong-kyung sent this text message to his mother. Mom, there's an accident.
Let me tell you something though, because this is twice that this has happened. I've gone past someplace and there's this new shop that I've never seen before. It's an ice cream store, which is not what got my attention. It was the name. And when I realized it was an ice cream place, I'm like, oh, that's peak. That's peak right there. But the name was so, I don't know, just so clever, so crisp, so clean, so good, especially given what it is. And they named it the Frosty Fjord. The Frosty Fjord for an ice cream shop. I'm like, that's so peak.
The subway. Black smoke keeps coming in. Mum, I can't
That's
breathe.
so good.
I think I'm going to die.
That was very clever.
And tragically, those would be the last words ever written by him. According to the phone calls, there was now an active fire aboard one of the trains at Jeonggangno subway station. And although the cause and scale of the fire were currently unknown, you will soon...
I'm sure they have ice cream there. Other than that, I don't know what they have. I don't know what they do there. I don't know what their whole shtick is. I just saw the sign at the edge of the road that didn't used to be there. I'm like, what is the Frosty Fjord? And I looked over and saw what it was on the building. Oh, that's clever.
Find out how aggressive and unique this situation was. Now, I don't need to tell you folks that a fire in such an enclosed underground space like a...
Yeah, it's been a lot of copycat nonsense. post my originals and often ignore people. It'll be dealt with in the long run, legally.
Station is basically the ultimate disaster. Oxygen levels deplete faster than my enthusiasm without coffee. And, of course, with limited escape routes underground, suffocation is as much a threat as the actual...
Well, the fjord, it's F-J-O-R-D. Fjord. And it's referencing, like, the edge of an island or the mouth of, actually the mouth of an island. Fjord is a long, deep, narrow inlet with steep cliffs or mountains to the sides. Glaciers carved these U-shaped valleys during past ice ages. An ocean and water later filled them. And so fjords are very commonly tied to very cold, often environments. Not always cold necessarily, but yes, cold environments and like Viking era. And so to have the Frosty Fjord as an ice cream shop, it was just, you have to understand the back context, but it's just so peak. It's just so good, so clean, so clever.
Itself. In response, 8 response units were immediately scrambled in a desperate effort to try and control whatever situation was in front of them. However, what they were unaware of at the time was that, unfortunately...
Well, I had a very long day today. Will you be on tomorrow night? I will be here tomorrow if you are here. I want to help you, and I would like to do so soon. I do have one person I need to make a session with off screen. But if it's possible to wait until tomorrow, I think it would be better to let me get a little bit of sleep and then recharge from the day beforehand. It was a very long day. I was out and about also most of the day. That way I have more to invest into it and to give back and pull for you. Remind me tomorrow what it was exactly that you wanted, though. Me to check on, like what topics. Thank you.
Was only the beginning. The first unit arrived at the station several minutes later, and as those firefighters descended down into the station to assess what was happening, they witnessed dozens of people running past them in the opposite direction to try and find any available exit. Smoke had already started to fill the air, and as for the station's staff, well, it kind of looked like a free-for-all. The further down they traveled, the thicker the smoke became. One of the passengers running away was kind enough to tell the firefighters that the source of the fire seemed to be from train 1079, which, as it turns out, had pulled into one of the train station's platforms only a few seconds prior. According to eyewitnesses, just a few seconds before it pulled into that platform, a fire broke out. The spread of that fire escalated within seconds, and with the train itself filled with budget-friendly and heavily flammable materials, it unfortunately combusted at an extremely fast rate. And, you know, the real crazy thing here is that, although this did happen, it actually met safety standards, even if only at the bare minimum. Now, trust me, we are only just getting started here. But as 1079 pulled in, its operator, named Choi Jong-hwan, watched as all of his passengers jumped out from the opening doors. It was only in that moment that he realized that something seemed to be deeply wrong here. All of his passengers seemed to be panicked from the train, and some of them were screaming about a fire. And so, now concerned about the situation himself, Jong-hwan exited his cab, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and then tried to put out the fire. Now, at least so far, I have to say, good effort, mate. But unfortunately, that is when panic set in, and Choi Jung-hwan turned from hero to coward. Realizing that there was no actual way he could control the situation, he decided to flee the scene instead. And to make matters even worse here, he did that all without notifying anyone of the location.
Okay. So Divine Masculine, I don't usually do reversals or read reversals, but these ones were calling to me in reverse today. Unexpected connection came out. Normally I would say that that's it's like when you don't expect to meet somebody. It's like the universe just happens to cross your paths. I feel like, though, for those that this one resonates with, it's not for everybody. This has already happened, and so it's not an unexpected connection anymore, because this Divine Masculine's been anticipating this physical union or reunion of this spiritual connection. That's what he's been thinking about, what he wants to say that he's been thinking about. The feeling. He's feeling like he wants to give something to Divine Feminine. There's a memento here. I am picking up this could be time also, like time spent, but it's usually like a physical reminder. I just saw a t-shirt. I hear t-shirt by Thomas Rhett. So yeah, time spent, but also she's wearing his t-shirt in the song. Divine timing. What he's wanting is for divine timing to play out. I'm hearing, I don't want anybody to get to her before I can. I also just heard, I'm not waiting or procrastinating. I'm ready to see you. And so, oh, okay. What he's doing to get what he wants. This is a karmic situation or karmic. It doesn't have to be like an ex or a relationship or anything like that. This could be coworkers, work, life situation or something like that, trying to interfere. But there's something that was maybe keeping them apart. And so he's wanting this divine timing to bring them together now and like not allow any interferences to happen. Okay. And that's what he's doing. He's not letting anything come between, and he's cutting off anything that might try, or did try, or will try. And so the final outcome for that toxic connection, him putting his willpower towards that, was no benefit of the doubt towards these karmic situations or people. They don't get the benefit of the doubt, and there's no healing the connection back together. There's no second chance. There's no, it's done. He knows who they are. He's seen who they are. He saw that they were trying to block him from his true love, his destiny. And so I said, okay, well, what about how he's, like final outcome with Divine Feminine? Best friend in reverse. The song, there was a song that came up in the last stream that was saying something about Divine Feminine being his love, but also his best friend. And so that it's not that he doesn't want her to be his best friend, but he wants her to be his love, his true love as well. Okay, let's clear this and see what Divine Feminine has. That's too many for feeling. What does she want to say? She's okay. They're mirroring, of course. funny. Okay. Okay, told you. I don't know what I picked up. Divine Feminine. You've got T's upright and then love language, affirmations in reverse. There's something about there being a lack of communication here. She's thinking about the fact that there has been a lack of communication, or maybe she's been like up in her head. Maybe not even just about this, but dealing with all the whatever nonsense was going on for whatever party that is put a lot of stuff on her plate to deal with, basically. And this is also why this Divine Masculine's not wanting these karmics to be any kind of factor, because they were causing or trying to create blockages or distractions or disturbances between the timing and the connection. So what she's wants to say that she's been feeling is freedom is in reverse, that she's been restricted and having to deal with these situations in some way. It's been, what was it? Not for personal gain. Is that what they called it? Oh. You know what? They're just regurgitating my words back. Because those are the specific words I just recalled that I used, for that particular copycat thief a few weeks ago. Within the last few weeks, at least. Okay. So I would say she went and complained about it. She does that. She did the same thing today. Tried to speak on things to contradict or counter what I called out yesterday. I was out today, but I set and coded a system up to handle it while I was gone. I happened to come back and catch up that part when I got home for a minute before I stuck it in the back room and handled my other tasks while it continued to do its job. Okay, and so the bonding is also here. She feels like whatever this has been getting in the way of her having the space or the time or the resources or the even just like mental and emotional energy to invest the way that she wants to. Wanting, what is she wanting? She says she wants rendezvous is here. So this is spending time together. She wants to spend this quality time. And what is she doing to get what she wants? Letting go of the past. Whatever toxicities were trying to hold her back or keeping her back, even just mentally and emotionally, old restrictions or traumas or cycles that needed to be severed, made cognizant, And so what's the final outcome? Physical connection. It doesn't have to be physical or sexual, but look, soulmate, maybe soulmate. Yes, this is also a reference of physically coming together. Falling in love. To fall in love. I love that. Acts of service, love language. Supporting each other right here. The responsibilities are being dealt with, or they've been dealt with.
Or the scale of the fire. As those seconds turned into minutes, the station control center, who was still completely oblivious to the situation, would only realize that something was wrong when the surveillance cameras now seemed to be engulfed in black smoke, obscuring all vision to the platform and train. If you think that was bad, it only gets worse and worse. and worse, and I really can't emphasize to you how much is still yet to go wrong. On that note, while all of this was happening, a second train 1080, was already on its way to pull up on the next adjacent platform. A huge problem, you could say, considering it would now be right next to the fire. As this train was pulling up, the driver of 1080, named Choi Sang-yeol, received a message over the radio from the control center. However, what they said was very vague. The message read, "Please drive carefully when entering Junggangno Station. The fire has broken out." Meaning that the message had no instructions to stop, but only to proceed cautiously.
This is actually one piece.
There's a karmic that's angry. I hear that. I hate her so much. Mom. I know who you are, girl. That's icky. Sending love to everybody else, though. How are we?
Now, I really want to stress how chaotic those first few moments were. A train was on fire, thick black smoke was filling the air, and the control room was completely unaware of what was going on. And although firefighters were now finally arriving at the crime scene, they were totally under-equipped. In addition to this, there was also a severe lack of technology or infrastructure to tackle fires. Things like fire doors or ventilation systems or extractors were basically absent. It had only been about 4 minutes since the fire first broke out. However, those 4 minutes were managed absolutely terribly. And that is when the unthinkable happened. The driver of train 1080, who of course had just been informed that there was a fire somewhere in the station, had made the decision to proceed and park right next to train 1079, which by now had been engulfed in both fire and smoke. And although some or most of us would have probably made the decision to either reverse or continue driving past that train platform, well, this guy didn't. Instead, he halted. And maybe you're thinking that that might just be the end of it, but unfortunately, you're wrong, because there is so much more that is about to happen. Without any intel on the severity of the situation, Choi Sang-yeol was completely unprepared for what he was pulling into. As soon as the train stopped, its doors opened automatically to thick black smoke, choking all of its passengers almost immediately in the process. As his own panic set in and he froze in fear, Sang-yeol manually closed all of the doors to stop smoke filling inside the train. Seconds later, he then informed all of the passengers that they would be departing the platform soon, sadly giving all of them false hope. And I say false hope here because all of a sudden, both the train and the station were plunged into darkness. The overhead power, which of course supplied the train, had now faltered, therefore leaving it both disabled and right next to the raging fire. And you know what else wouldn't work without power? The train's doors. Although emergency engineering systems were now able to supply power to the lines, unfortunately, that backup power would lose its juice just as soon as it began. And by now, the fire was spreading from 1079 directly across to 1080, consuming dozens and dozens of people as it quickly worked its way through the carriages. In a small stroke of luck, Sang-yeol was able to manually escape from his cabin. But unfortunately, although he was initially instructed to help evacuate all of his passengers, he instead panicked. He would only make 2 announcements to evacuate, before then deciding to remove the master key and flee down the platform. Now, removing the master key from the train was the single biggest mistake that Sang-yeol could make, because when he removed that key, the onboard battery was immediately shut off, therefore permanently disabling all train doors. That means the very moment that Sang-yeol took that master key, he essentially locked all of his passengers inside. Meanwhile, and above ground, rescue teams had no clear idea of the multiple horrors that were now unfolding beneath their feet, because, believe it or not, they still didn't have any information that would help them understand the situation. Eventually, the firefighters would realize that, sadly, they were still under-equipped, and all they could do now was wait until more help
Let
and
me
support
eat my
arrived.
salad burrito
All
in
in the
peace.
meanwhile, those lucky
Out
enough
of
to
the kitchen.
escape the subway station were running, stumbling, crawling, coughing, and choking from the hellhole below. With the severity now slowly becoming more obvious, a massive citywide effort was now underway to try to fight the fire and help as many survivors as possible. In total, 84 fire trucks and 3,200 personnel were mobilized to help, including nearly 1,000 firefighters,
Oh, Blake is a child. I can immediately tell the energy's off, first and foremost. Secondarily, that comment didn't help his case. Toodles. I don't know what he was saying, but I saw what you said, William, and then I saw that one comment from him. That's a child.
and
That's a child.
what waited for those who dared to go down into that subway station left all of them speechless. Although many passengers were thankfully able to escape the fire, there were also a lot of them who simply couldn't make it. At first, emergency personnel found dozens of bodies on the stairs, so close, yet tragically so far from safety. It is understood that they had all likely died from choking on the thick black smoke, unable to...
Puppy dog. That's the cover photo. And little video games on their post. That's a child. Yep. Oh, June.
the oxygen that they so desperately needed to escape. Further inside, emergency personnel found dozens of bodies scattered across the subway floor. These are the ones who will have stumbled around in the dark, unable to breathe or see, until, slowly, they choked to death.
Wow.
When firefighters finally gained access to the platform that held both trains 1079 and 1080, they realized that this no longer was a rescue operation. Both of the trains were completely incinerated, essentially becoming charred metal tombs to all of their victims. And as they made their way onto what remained of those trains, they realized that a good portion of the debris, which at first seemed indistinguishable, were actually the charred remains of passengers. Passengers who were now burned almost entirely beyond recognition. Initial reports from the crime scene suggested that around 100 people died in the various train cars, with some so severely that only DNA testing could reveal their identities. And with this happening during rush hour, it meant that, sadly, no demographic was exempt.
Somebody said, I don't know how you can listen to these and eat. I've been through some shit.
Students, children, young adults, and elderly people all perished within the fire. And inside train 1080 alone, a total of 79 bodies were discovered. The evidence suggested that once the master key was removed and the doors could no longer open, every single person that was left inside that train had their fate sealed. As the horrible news spread across the globe, the world watched on in horror as the death toll rose. First, it was 100. Then 125, then 150, until ultimately a total of 192 people were confirmed to be dead, with a further 151 people injured throughout the disaster. The entire country was in collective disbelief, because nobody could fathom how something so disastrous could have happened. And the question on everyone's mind at the time was, how did this happen? What precisely caused the fire? And who exactly was to blame? So, folks, if you thought that was the end of the story, then you might be forgiven for thinking so, but it turns out that the real insane part is still yet to be told. It all slowly began to unravel when forensic detectives took a closer look at the crime scene.
Happy Friday!
Because when something like this happens, where do you begin? So, they began with the first logical answer and went straight to train 1079, because as far as they knew, that's where the fire started. And with several surviving witnesses, they were able to give a fairly graphic start to the story. It was in that moment that they finally realized that the fire hadn't started from faulty equipment or a freak accident or loose wires, but actually by a human. And several people were there to witness it too. Because from what they were telling officers, they saw this middle-aged man sat in the middle of a carriage, who then took off his backpack, took out 2 cartons of what they only assumed to be gasoline, and then a lighter. And by the way, those cartons were not petrol canisters, but literally milk cartons. Understandably confused, several passengers watched in disbelief as this man then started playing with his lighter. And unfortunately, before anybody could do anything about it, that is when he sparked the lighter and the whole thing went up into flames. Whoever he was, it is clear that this man meant serious business, and he had made his mind up long before
This is Coffee House Crime. Cops discover taxi driver murdered 192 people in horrifying confession. And I'm realizing that it was... I thought it was just a succession of people, like, over time, just based off of the title. But I think it's probably how many people died in the subway, or in the spot. We'll see.
That lighter. Flames erupted and spread throughout the carriage. Now startled and shocked, the arsonist threw his bag on the ground, which, of course, spread the flames even further. According to those around him, his clothes caught alight just as the train pulled into the station. And when those doors opened, all passengers made no hesitation to evacuate. The train quickly engulfed in flames as the seats, belts, and wall insulation all helped fuel the blaze. And although this man was the one who actually started the fire, it turns out that he was actually one of the first to flee that train alongside all of the other passengers. The only difference now is that he was actually set on fire, with flames clearly visible over the back of his shirt and his trousers. So, investigators now realized that this fire was actually no freak accident, but instead a deliberate and targeted act of arson. The only caveat here is that at this point in the investigation, detectives actually had no idea of who the arsonist was or what his possible motive could be. I think everyone was still just completely baffled by the situation, because it's insane to think that just one man was responsible for so much death and destruction. Again, I would like to reiterate here that 192 lives were lost that morning. Entire countries are changed by a figure like that. However, whoever this man was, he had gotten away without anyone noticing. Detectives realized one other thing here. If this man was still alive, then surely he would have been severely burned from the fire. It's kind of like evidence of the crime, but in the most painful and obvious way. So, if he had sought medical treatment for his injuries after setting this fire and then being caught alight, then it would simply be a process of elimination. All they would have to do is look for someone with severe burns to their back and legs. The man was described as in his mid-50s with short, greying black hair, and with the majority of passengers that morning being either women or young people, those details alone thankfully narrowed down their search. Detectives contacted all of the local hospitals and asked them for a report of the profiles of all of their burns victims. Their initial findings were pretty good because they found 2 people who fit the description. So, 50-50, basically. However, when another man came forward, claiming that he knew the name of the suspect, that thankfully narrowed it down to 1. The man's account of the incident would also echo all of the witness testimonies too. So, they knew that he was likely a credible source to identifying the suspect. The man claimed that the arsonist was a 56-year-old man named Kim Dae-han. And would you believe that, at the time that he was being identified, Kim Dae-han was actually being treated at one of the local hospitals right next to dozens of his own victims. Now, when officers took a closer look at him, they found that Dae-han was currently being treated for burns to both of his legs and his right arm. However, the doctor who was treating him at the time would also tell officers that his main concern was actually over his lungs due to the amount of smoke that he inhaled. And so, on that note, who precisely was Kim Dae-han, and what on earth was he doing? Formerly a taxi driver who served the Daegu area.
Kitty, I thought you were dismissing him like as a person, just calling him Small Fry. We've got bigger fish to fry. No, that was his actual username. Pardon.
Daehan had also worked as a cargo driver in recent years, so he didn't have jobs that were fancy, but definitely helped serve the economy. It also appeared that Daehan had worked hard to try to support his wife, son and daughter, who by 2003 were now in their late 20s. Times were tough, however, and so both children were still living at home with their parents. Daehan was a hard worker. However, due to no fault of his own, he could no longer support his family after the year 2001, when he unexpectedly suffered a stroke while working. And although he survived, he unfortunately was then classed with a grade 2 brain disability. He basically suffered from right-sided hemiplegia, resulting in a severe weakness or complete paralysis of one side of the body. His left hemisphere of the brain was severely damaged. And with this side of the brain controlling language, it is no surprise that Daehan also developed aphasia, a neurological language disorder which meant that he could no longer speak or write properly. As a result of his new condition, he was therefore forced to give up his taxi job indefinitely. Of course, the news affected him badly, because not only was this his own source of money and community, but it also destroyed his pride. Now, although he was going to physical therapy to help with his hemiplegia, Daehan's outlook on life took a very dark turn. He became pessimistic, nihilistic, and essentially lost all hope in his life. And to make things even worse, he would even tell his family and friends that he simply wished he was no longer alive. As you can imagine, this definitely worried his wife and his children, all of whom recommended he try to get some.
That's strange. That just changed on its own.
Life took a very dark turn. He became pessimistic, nihilistic, and essentially lost all hope in his life. And to make things even worse, he would even tell his family and friends that he simply wished he was no longer alive. As you can imagine, this definitely worried his wife and his children, all of whom recommended he try to get some help through a psychiatrist. And although he did try to seek treatment, he was still very clearly in a worryingly volatile and vulnerable state. Now, according to his son, Daehan had problems understanding what others were saying to him after his stroke. And so, when he started disappearing from the family home, only to be found by police or at a hospital, it was kind of obvious that whatever treatment he was getting at the time clearly wasn't enough. Actually, he even blamed his doctors for his lack of recovery, and would even go as far as threatening to set them on fire. Which is kind of a grim foreshadowing considering what was just about to happen. Unfortunately, there were other signs too, because after disappearing one time, he told his family that he planned to take his own life, but all the same was too scared to do it alone, so he would have to do it publicly, which can kind of be called a premonition at this stage, because now Daehan was sitting in a hospital surrounded by people who were directly injured by his own actions. After being taken into custody, he was quiet, forlorn, and mostly closed off. But officers didn't need him to talk, because alongside the slew of other evidence, multiple witnesses told them everything they needed to know. And with all things considered, this is basically what the timeline said. On February the 18th, 2003, and at around 9 a.m., Daehan packed 2 disposable lighters and 2 empty plastic cartons into his backpack. And after that, he then left the family home with no intention of ever returning. He then took a taxi to Songyeon Station, where he walked to a gas station, purchased gasoline, filled both of his cartons to the brim, and then paid. His entire death wish came to a grand total of just under $5. And with his purchase now made, he then walked into the station and boarded a 9:30 a.m. train. 23 minutes later, and just as the train was slowing down to pull into Janggangnon Station, Daehan then fumbled with one of his lighters and one of the gas canisters. And while all of those around him were questioning what he was doing, and before any of them had the opportunity to stop him, Daehan then managed to ignite it. We know the rest of this story already, but from Daehan's perspective, the fire almost immediately quickly engulfed the entire area around him, setting not just his clothes but also himself ablaze in the process. However, as soon as the fire started to actually burn him, he decided to stop feeling sorry for himself. In that moment, he then desperately tried to discard all of his clothing, throwing his backpack on the floor of the train and then running away as soon as he could. And with that backpack still holding an entire canister of gasoline, all it would do is help further spread the fire. And as we know, as the fire spread across train 1079, train 1080 pulled up into the adjacent platform, and once those flames jumped from one to the other, those inside 1080 became trapped. I think it's kind of obvious by now that the driver of 1080 was both a coward and an idiot for taking the master key. But also, it's no surprise why he couldn't extinguish the fire in the first place. You see, back then, most of Korea's trains were actually made on an extremely tight budget, which basically meant that most of the materials used were not fire safe at all. And as you can imagine, with the heavy use of plastics, all of that would make very thick black smoke, which basically rendered everybody unconscious. And as we know, the consequences to all of these things were absolutely catastrophic, with the death toll reaching 192 and a further 151 injured. I think one of the absolutely insane parts of this story is that Dae-han never actually intended for anybody else to die. Yet somehow he managed to murder so many people, all while actually surviving himself. And so, with all now said and done, the entire country was furious at Dae-han, and of course anybody else who was at fault. In the days, weeks, and then months that followed, the entire country braced itself for his trial. However, before we get to what happened there, let's first take a look at everybody else who found themselves in the spotlight. Thankfully, both Choi Sang-yeol and Choi Jung-won would face charges of criminal negligence, with prosecutors arguing that their individual failures had transformed an already dangerous fire into something far more catastrophic. Jung-won, the driver of train 1079, had fled without properly alerting the control center to the severity of the fire. It was therefore a colossal failure to communicate, and one that had absolutely devastating consequences. You need to think of it this way, but had control been warned immediately, then train 1080 would have never stopped in the station at the first place. But of course, once train 1080 actually arrived at that platform, Sang-yeol would make a decision that was even more deadly. As the fire spread and panic overwhelmed the station, he then abandoned his train, but only after taking the master key. Just out of curiosity here, but has anyone ever heard of a more horrifyingly stupid idea? Because genuinely, what on earth was he thinking while doing that? In short, in a desperate attempt to try to save himself and only himself, Sang-yeol had effectively sealed dozens of people inside of a burning metal tomb. For their failures that morning, Sang-yeol was sentenced to 5 years in prison, while Jung-hwan received 4. Both men, of course, have since completed their sentences and are now free to this day. But it turns out that they were not actually the only two who faced punishment. 2 of the control room operators would each receive 3 years in prison for their handling of the emergency, while 2 other facility commanders at the station would receive suspended sentences. However, negligence, confusion, stupidity, and woefully inadequate safety measures aside, none of those failures had actually started the fire. And of course, all of that was on Kim Dae-han. With capital punishment still a thing in South Korea, it came as little surprise when prosecutors decided to seek the death penalty. And I don't think any of you would be surprised to learn that they had a lot of public support too. However, the defense argued that Dae-han was not of sound mind during the attack. They also claimed that the trauma of his stroke, disability, and inability to work, and his difficulty in being able to communicate had profoundly distorted his outlook on life. The court ignored that, thankfully. Dae-han's motivation was also very clear. He had grown angry and resentful over his declining health, and with his loss of independence and his inability to work, he essentially decided it was game over. In addition to all of this, he also told professionals that he intended to end his own life, that he didn't want to do it alone, and that when he finally did, it would be in a public space. And of course, in hindsight, with 192 people now dead, all we can really say is that this was pure selfishness in its most horrifying form. And so, taking all of these factors into consideration, the entire country was outraged when, on January the 7th, 2004, Kim Dae-han was found guilty but narrowly missed the death penalty. Instead, the High Court sentenced him to life in prison. So, despite murdering 192 people, that apparently wasn't enough for the death penalty. That is a really high bar to set. Obviously, the verdict was met with total outrage. Outside of the courthouse, both grief and anger filled the families of his victims, most of who supported his execution. Many protests erupted throughout the city and country, and you can't blame them either. Their anger was totally justified. However, unfortunately, none of these protests would actually sway the court, and ultimately, his life sentence was upheld. Only a month later, Dae-han was then transferred to Jinju prison, where he was then expected to spend the remainder of his life behind bars. But the darkly ironic thing here is that his life sentence would prove to be unexpectedly short, because less than a year later, and on August the 30th, Dae-han suddenly died in custody. And while some would initially wonder whether he had been killed or maybe taken his own life inside prison, the sad truth here is that Dae-han suffered yet another stroke, this one causing severe breathing difficulties, and ultimately ending in him dying while being transported to hospital. I think it's kind of strangely poetic that the same condition that marked the beginning of his downfall would ultimately end his life too. In the aftermath of this disaster, South Korea introduced much stricter fire safety standards across all of its subway systems. They ordered all train carriage interiors to be upgraded with more fire-resistant materials, emergency equipment to be improved, and staff to be given clearer procedures to what to do in fire response and evacuation settings. Which, of course, makes sense, because, to be honest with you, the failures that were exposed in this disaster were simply unbelievable in this day and age. For example, the fact that the passenger carriages didn't even have their own fire extinguishers was absurd. The only extinguisher aboard train 1079 was kept inside of the driver's cab, meaning that none of the passengers had any way of controlling the flames themselves. Combined with the highly flammable materials used throughout the trains, it meant that what began as a single fire was able to spread with extraordinary speed. The disaster became a national embarrassment to South Korea. However, it has to be said that that shame would end up saving many lives in the future. 22 years later, in the year 2025, a similar situation happened aboard a subway train in Seoul when a 67-year-old man poured gasoline through a carriage and then started a fire. However, although the beginning of that story was very, very similar to this one, the end result would be extraordinarily different. The fire was contained, passengers were evacuated, and although 22 people did have to go to hospital for smoke inhalation, nobody was actually killed. Comparing that with the 192 deaths in Daegu, it really shows just how much difference proper equipment, safer materials, and a decent emergency response can make. After the 2003 fire, part of Junggangno Station has since been turned into a memorial. Sections of the original station still remain on display, which, as you can see, are still visibly burned and distorted by the fire. Honestly, folks, this story really did stick with me, and it's not
I hear this.
It's my blood that's cooking and I can't help it. It's the last train home from the day tripping. It's the place I love when it starts slipping. Darling, won't you take me home? Sailing shivers somewhere underneath the ground. Write my name across your mirror and I'll lay my feelings down. Darling, won't you take me home? Yeah, won't you take me home?
Oh no, how are you?
Tell me that you're loving I still love you head to toe. Like a heart singing a song on the radio and you're the words of my song when I'm sick, Darling, won't you take me home? Sailing shivers somewhere Darling, won't you take me home?
On Saturn. That's funny, I love that. Can you imagine claiming to be a cherubim, orphan and cherubim, but then trying to say that somebody who's seraphim, who's elevated above you, who you clearly do not understand, who outranks you, is crazy. The gag. Your cat thinks he's a communist. What are you reading? This is from Stranger Things. That's right. I was also hearing this.
Safer grounds, but
Indigo.
go row the boat to safer grounds. But don't you know we're stronger now? My heart still beats and my skin still feels. My lungs still breathe. My mind still feels. Are we running out of time? Oh, all the echoes in my mind. There's blood on your eyes. The sky's open wide. There's nowhere for you to hide. There's blood shining on your walls tonight. Honey, with the walls. Honey, with the walls tonight. Honey, with the walls. Honey, with the trick or treat. What would it be? I walk alone. I'm everything my ears can hear and my mouth can speak. My spirit talks. I know my soul believes. Are we running out of time? All the echoes in my mind cry. There's blood on your eyes. The sky's open wide. There's nowhere for you to hide. Your heart is clearly shining. Honey, with the walls tonight. Honey, with the walls. Honey, with the walls tonight. Honey, with the walls. Honey, with the walls tonight. Honey, with the walls. Honey, with the walls tonight. Honey, with the walls. Because the drown, because it can be dreaming nights when seasons a million voices start the dreams. But hope is never so I'm running with the wolves. I'm running with the 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 wolves tonight. I'm running with the wolves tonight. I'm running with the wolves. I'm running with the wolves.
And the problem is,
People got problems. You're divine masculine love pink.
Move to the city with me. I don't wanna be alone. You're too pretty for me, baby, I know. Yeah, even when you first wake up and anybody else I've loved, maybe I got good luck with you. Didn't know we get so far, and it's only the start. Baby, you got me worried. Your love is scaring me. No one has ever really cared for me as much as you do. Yeah, oh, I need you here. Oh, your love is therapy. No drug could ever give me clarity as much as you do. Yeah, oh, I need you here. Drive through the city with me, just watching you glow. You're in the passenger seat, and I'm in control. Every day I swear, maybe it's a little unfair. Maybe I'm starstruck by you. Didn't know I get so far, and it's only the start. Maybe you got me worried. Your love is scaring me. No one has ever really cared for me as much as you do. Yeah, oh, I need you here. Oh, your love is therapy. No drug could ever give me clarity as much as you do. Yeah, oh, I need you here. Oh, if we fall apart, it wasn't meant to be. If we fall apart, it was a favorite dream. Your love is scaring me. No one has ever really cared for me as much as you do. Yeah, oh, I need you here. Oh, your love is therapy. No drug could ever give me clarity as much as you do. Yeah, oh, I need you here. Oh.
I hear this. And then one more after this.
This is a story about a girl named Lucky. Early morning, she wakes up, knock, knock, knock on the door. It's time for makeup, perfect smile. It's you they're all waiting for. They're going crazy. She
also just heard this one. Hello, Glasgow. One love. Must be early there, yeah? It's loud, excuse me. I hear this.
When the world No river is too wide or too deep for me to swim to you.
You're welcome.
Come whatever, I'll be the shelter that won't let the rain come through.
It's Adele, that's right.
Your love, it is my truth, and I will always love you, love you. When the pain cuts you deep, when the night keeps you from sleeping, just look at you and see that I will be your remedy. When the world seems so cruel and your heart makes you feel like a fool, I promise you will see that I will be your remedy. When the pain cuts you deep and the night keeps you from sleeping, just look and you will see I will be, I will be. When the world seems so cruel and your heart makes you feel like a fool, I promise you will see that I will be, I will be, I will be your remedy.
Hydrate, gang.
Sunrise with you on my chest. No blinds in the place where I live. Daybreak, open your eyes, cause this was only ever meant to be for one night. Still, we're changing our minds here. Be yours, be mine, dear. So close with you on my lips. Touch noses, feeling your breath. Push your heart and pull away. Yeah, be my summer in a winter day, love. I can't see one thing wrong between the both of us. Be mine, yeah. Anytime, anytime. Ooh, you know I've been alone for quite a while, haven't I thought I knew it all. Found love, but I was wrong. More times than enough. But since you came along, I'm thinking, baby, you are bringing out a different kind of me. There's no safety net that's underneath. I'm afraid I'm falling all in you. Far from it, who would hurry and be there? Trapped up on a tightrope, now we're here. We're free. I'm falling all in you. Fast forward a couple years, yeah. Grown up and safety net that's underneath. I'm falling all in you.
I do.
Far from men who and how they appear.
I'll add it to my
Trapped
list.
upon a temple, now we're here. We're free. I'm falling all in you. Every time I see you, baby, I get lost. If I'm dreaming, baby, please don't wake me up. Every night I'm with you, I fall more in love. Now I'm laying by your side. Everything feels right. And since you came along, I'm thinking, baby, you, yeah, are bringing out a different kind of me. Yeah. There's no safety net that's underneath. I'm free, I'm falling all in you. Fell from men who and how they appear. Trapped up on a temple, now we're here. We're free, I'm falling all in you. Oh, misty eye of the mountain below. Keep careful watch of my brother's souls. And should the sky be filled with fire and smoke, keep watching over during suns. If this is to end in fire, then we shall all burn together. Watch the flames climb high into the night, calling out, Father, oh, stand by and we will watch the flames burn over and on the mountainside. And if we should die tonight, we should all die together. Raise a glass of wine for the last time, calling out, Father, prepare as we will watch the flames burn over and on the mountainside.
I don't know what happened. A long story.
Photographs and heartbeat fast, colors and promises. How to be brave? How can I love when I'm afraid to fall? Watching you stand around.
like the Divine Masculine's message earlier. He's saying, I'm not letting anything get in the way of us, and divine timing.
One step closer. I have tried everything waiting for you. Darling, don't be afraid. I loved you for 1,000 years. I love you for 1,000 One step closer. I have died every night waiting for you. Darling, don't be afraid. I have loved you for 1,000 years. I love you for
Going to bid you adieu, my darlings. Sweet dreams. Grand rising. Happy in between for those on the interim. I will see you tomorrow. Take good care of yourselves. Remember to hydrate. Get some rest. Have a beautiful day.